Hey everybody, David here with ProTrain Miami and the CEO John Toldaro, and we're going to talk about the 5 things that make athletes go from good to great. How are you tonight, John?
I'm fantastic, man. We're out here in sunny South Florida, Miami, Florida, getting a lot of kids better.
I love it. That's the mission: is helping as many kids as
The
possible
mission
and
is 1
getting.
million kids, 1 million kids, and we're on our way. We're on our way.
That's beautiful. I love it. So tonight we're going to talk about the 5 things that young athletes can do that can take them from good to great. Now, these are fundamental habits, and some of these are misconceptions we're actually going to debunk. But we'll start with number one with consistency and discipline. What do you see in young athletes and issues that their parents run into with consistency and discipline? And what do you recommend just to help them overcome the common challenges?
The biggest problem I see with youth athletes is they specialize too early and they're too driven on the specific skill of that particular sport. So they miss out on different planes of motion and different abilities in performance. A lot of athletes have mobility issues, movement issues, rhythm issues, and just general performance issues. And it's because they specialize too early versus playing a variety of sports and working on general performance and not specializing.
Okay, that's interesting. So the issue is that they're not being consistent and being well rounded. They might be consistent in one thing, but it's not enough to make them the best football player if they're not also playing basketball or
100%.
baseball.
Right. And then
Yeah.
just generally working on performance. They like too many athletes don't understand rhythm and movement, and they don't understand coordination. They're not relatively strong for their body weight. The biggest issue we run in our facility is the relative strength, meaning that they cannot hold their body weight correctly. So if I have a 90-pound athlete, they cannot hold their body weight up. And to fast, you have to be able to hold your body weight to produce the most amount of force. If you're not able to hold your body, you're not able to operate on a single leg. If you can't operate on a single leg, your force is going to go straight into the ground versus back into the ground because you're not able to get your body in the right
Yeah.
acceleration phase. You're not able to get into that 45-degree angle where the plane is taking off versus it's trying to go. You're just going straight up, but you don't produce enough force to get it to go anywhere.
Okay, so with some well-rounded training, it sounds like that can help the students a lot. And do you think they should be being consistent with weight training at a young age, or when do you think that should
Absolutely,
come in?
absolutely. They need to be weight training. And what I mean by that, they need to be doing chin ups, push ups, pull ups. They need to be doing all types of body weight training. That is weight training. They need to be sprinting and jumping, specifically just sprinting, jumping, pulling, pushing. That's exact. If they're doing that, if I got an athlete from the age of 6 that can start working on pulling their body weight up, pushing their body weight up, sprinting consistently, jumping consistently, they are gonna be the 1% of all athletes.
Okay. Compound movements.
It's just yeah, it's a it's just being able to handle your body weight. If you look at Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan didn't
Yeah.
play basketball, but Michael Jordan didn't start playing basketball until he was 12 years old. He was a baseball player, but specifically, he was doing basketball just at a meet. Like his main sport was baseball. He was playing basketball for fun. He was playing other sports, and he was just super athletic. It's well documented that he was the best athlete on any team he was on. He could jump, he could throw, he could sprint, and that is what made Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, if you look at him, was, he was an undersized player, even from a professional standpoint. The biggest problem they saw in him was he was too small. But he was insanely athletic. As we've seen him, he's jumping from the free throw line. He had a
Yeah.
44-inch vertical. He was fast as shit. And then when he got into the NBA, he got much bigger. He used weight training, and what changed it for him was actually introducing weights. That's why Tim Grover, his trainer, is getting a big buzz as like the builder of Michael Jordan because he was the one that introduced him to weights. And if you even look at his program from Tim Grover, it was very elementary. There was a lot of things I don't necessarily agree with, but you get a guy that's already athletic and you start throwing like just general resistance work, it's gonna do a lot for them.
Okay,
And it
strength. Sounds like
strength is
that's
never
the
a
big
weakness.
component. Yeah. And you
Strength
and
is
I
never.
are millennials. We'll never forget watching Space Jam and him just flying
I mean, it
across
was,
that court,
but
man.
he was really doing that, and it was just generally athletic. He was more athletic than all the people in his position. And then on top of that, he had an insane work ethic. He was very committed and just obsessed. There's a lot of athletes that I train that are just not obsessed with this. Like they're not obsessed. They like it. They don't. They're not obsessed. Tiger obsessed. Serena Venus obsessed. Jordan
Yeah.
obsessed. Deshaun Jackson obsessed. The guys behind me obsessed. They lived it. Like they had no other options and they didn't care about anything else. So like a lot of these athletes, they don't work on the general side of things and they're not obsessed with that.
Yeah, that's so true. I've heard people say obsessed is a word that the lazy use to describe the dedicated people that just love their craft. And in relation to that, talking about strength and conditioning, what are most student athletes missing? What are their typical school programs not giving them? And what can ProTrain offer them that is different and above and beyond that?
100%. The school programs are highly flawed. They are not working within energy systems. Most team sports are alactic, and all these sports are training from a lactic capacity. They're anaerobic and they're training aerobic. And what I mean by that is they
Okay.
are like they're running these kids till they puke, doing suicides, fucking gassers, 110.
Yeah.
These things don't train. These have nothing to do with the sport. This doesn't have anything to do with sports. When have you ever seen a football player run more than 40 yards? Have you seen a baseball player run more than 30 feet?
Yeah.
When have you like when have you seen it's all acceleration, right?
So they're mismatched. They're completely
They're
mismatched in their training.
even like specifically like with track, like you have people like track like athletes training long distance where it's like they're doing a long to short approach, whereas you need to do a short to long approach. You need to work on short acceleration. I don't need a team sport athlete to be 100 meters fast. I don't need them to run a mile fast. I need them to run 5 yards as fast as they fucking humanly can.
Yeah.
Like we're not and like it's so focused on getting the kid tired, right? So then they have this terrible association to training. Oh, I don't want to train. But if they train like ProTrain, right, they would want to do this shit every day, and you should do it every day. You should do a ProTrain protocol every day because what we do is we train the performance. We train to optimize. We train to enhance. We don't train to get you tired. That's for broke people. To get tired, you're gonna be fucking broken down and you're not going to be playing versus I'm going to get you to play the best on Sunday. I don't need you to fucking get tired to do that. I need you to be
Yeah.
able to do it every day, 365. The problem is people can't commit to the sport 365 because they're not built for the sport, because they're not training for the sport. And then they're not training for the sport because the wrong training is out there. All it is long distance, miles, suicide, sub maximal speed versus running as fast as you can, as quickly as you can, and stopping, resting.
Wow.
For within the protocol for sprinting
Yeah.
and to build speed is for every 10 yards, you rest 1 minute, right? So if I'm running 40 yards, minimum I gotta rest is 4 minutes. And I guarantee you, you go to any high school in the country, they're running 100 yards, resting 30 seconds. Now tell me, what the fuck is gonna happen? And then you wonder why these kids have ACL tears, hamstring issues. They have all these things that end their careers before they even fucking start, right?
Yeah.
And it's because there's a bunch of coaches out there that have no business being out there coaching. They don't understand the science. They don't even understand the fucking sport. They don't even understand the sport. They're over the sport and undercoaching the development of performance, right? There is a very few amount of coaches that understand the process. That's why you got people like Nick Saban investing millions of dollars into their strength staff, right? Cochran was the highest paid strength coach in the NCAA. And there was no question as to why Alabama was the #1 program in the country, right? Because
Because
they
they understood
invested,
that. Yeah.
they understood.
Yeah.
Like Nick Saban wasn't in the fucking weight room. Nick Saban wasn't on the turf when they were doing training. Nick Saban stuck to strategy for the sport, right? He didn't try and build the athlete for the sport. Too many, and the thing is, like, the way youth sports is ran, it's from a voluntary standpoint, even from the high school level. These kids don't even, if only if they're genetically gifted and lucky are they going to get access to a professional coach unless they pay for it. Like, and if they go to a ProTrain, and even that, there's so many fugazi facilities out there that don't measure, track, record, and trade speed. They're still doing the shit that they're doing at the school. So they're getting bullshit from the school. They're getting bullshit from these fugazi trainer terrorists, and they
Yeah.
never see the ability. So that's why you get a lot of average athletes that don't make it versus you hear about guys like Gronk and what's his name. There's so many great. What's the other white boy receiver from the Patriots that's got the podcast now? Shout out
There's a
to
lot of good ones, but
right,
it sounds like
but
your main point is though is that they're training aerobic instead of anaerobic,
100%.
and they're really making people into long distance runners instead of like
Yeah, but not getting the
explosive
fat.
short
Like,
distance runners.
yeah,
So
you
you would
but not
recommend to parents to get kids into something that is that trains their explosiveness, that trains their anaerobic, that really helps them perform like they're going to perform in the sport, not perform like they're going to run a 5K.
100%. And guess what? People
Okay.
are like, oh, like soccer players love to throw out the word endurance. But I've tracked and measured thousands of soccer players' GPSs, and the fastest and most productive player, the most quote unquote endurance athletes on a
Yeah.
soccer field, guess what? They're the fastest ones out there. They're the fastest
Wow.
ones out there. So if you really look at soccer, it's not an endurance sport. It's just continuous acceleration, deceleration, right?
Yeah.
And my most productive players on a soccer field are the fastest ones that also have the most endurance. Because if I got a higher threshold of max speed, obviously I'm gonna be able to hold on to my max speed longer, right? And
Yeah.
my reserve speed is still higher than everybody else's. So I'm not gonna get tired as quickly. That's like saying I'm gonna bench with somebody that benches 405, but I can only bench 305. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
be able to keep up with them. Let's say they're just doing working sets of 225. That person that's benching 405 is still gonna beat me, even though they don't do repetitions. Let's say that person that is doing the 225 that only can max out at 305, he continuously benches 225 for reps more than the person that can bench 405. But the 405 bencher is going to beat that guy that can only bench 305, even though that 305 guy is doing more repetition. It's because he has a more max
Yeah,
bench.
that makes perfect sense in the realm of soccer and having that higher max velocity. So, what would you tell a parent right now if they don't have access to specialized training? What is two or three things that they could instruct their kid to do to just marginally improve their kid's performance? If it's just the parent and it's just the kid and they've got a big backyard, what do you tell them to do? Sprint for
Man,
30 seconds
fuck
and
that big
stop?
backyard. Go put a fucking $30 chin up bar on your fucking door and have that motherfucker hold on to it every night. Start with that.
Okay.
Getting them introduced to handling their body weight better.
Okay.
Sprinting as fast as they can twice a week and jumping.
Okay.
Doing
Uphill,
basic,
downhill, flat.
the simpler the better. Get that
Okay.
motherfucker to just straight
Okay.
line sprint 20 yards as fast as they can. Take a nice 2-minute break. Get them to do it 4 or 5 times. Time it, and let's see them continuously get better. And when the 2 strikes and you're out, no, it's three. We'll do 3 strikes. You're out. The times go down 3 times. It's done. Halas. That's it. Get them out of there. Right? They're gonna get 4 or 5 quality sprints where the times are gonna continuously go up, and then they're gonna get like one that's gonna
What do you
start
mean?
going.
3 strikes per day? Three
So
times
like
you're
so like
slower?
I want to get no more than 6 reps in
Okay.
acceleration and in any sprint
And
protocol.
40 yards or 10, like name.
We'll start off with a 150-yard protocol where
Okay.
that's broken up. That's broken up in 20 yards. So
Okay.
so we'll start with that. But then you get good at that. Now, like start with the basics, right? But then there has to
Yeah.
be eventually a resistance component. The biggest key to building speed is force production, and to build the most force is by doing resisted sprints, right? But you still have to start with being able to handle your body weight before that is a really big factor. Now, I could use resistance sprints as a technical aspect as far as getting them to understand the positions and the angles that we're supposed to be in, right? It's a
Yeah.
we can use it as context, but they're going to be better off by just starting off with doing great form in a short distance. And then we work to a
Okay.
longer approach.
We're
It's
talking
simple.
9 to 12. Let's clarify on the resistance. Are we just talking
I think
body
if you I
resistance
think
or actual free weights?
if you can't do a chin up, there's no need to do resistance work.
Okay, so just body resistance, not weights, unless you're already doing reps with
We
your
if you want
body.
resistance, get a hill. Go to a hill. You
Okay.
don't if you can't
Okay.
do and I recommend hills to start with as a form
Okay.
of resistance. But the best bang for your you're gonna to build force production, you're gonna have to have a form of resistance. And that's why I don't believe in a lot of these most of these track programs, because none of them are doing any form of force production. There's no force production outside of maybe they're fucking around in the weight room, but they're doing the weight room wrong, and we'll get into that.
Okay, but explain to like normal people to know what that means force production, like dragging weight, dragging chains, or just their
Anything that
own.
is going to slow down the run,
Okay.
because they got to.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would say to parents, get the kids doing 120 yards, 20 yards at a time, get them as fast as possible in those intervals. When they start losing speed, stop for the day so they can recover. And then also add on some weights, like a weighted vest when the time comes for it to
Yeah, but
increase.
progressive. But first, they got
Okay.
to understand the concepts of posture, position, and power. They need to actually understand the right angles, right? They need to understand that they need to handle themselves on their single leg. So it's just a combination of building single leg strength, building relative strength, and the right form to go about it. And you do that for 8 weeks, they're going to be able to do a couple of chin ups unless they're fat. If they're fat, you got to
Yeah.
work on slimming them down because they got to be able to handle their body weight. You're not going to be fast if you can't handle. There's never been somebody that's extremely fast that is not able to handle their body weight at a very optimal level. If you look at
Yeah.
gymnasts, and like I can take any high level gymnast, right? And in 6 weeks, I could turn them into a competitive sprinter. Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Can handle their body weight well.
Because they can handle their body weight better than any athlete, right? I can take any female sprinter in the country, right? Any female gymnast that's at a higher, like at a level 7, and let's say they want to quit. And I've done this so many times where they've quit gymnastics, they're burnt out. I'm like, all right, let's go do track. It's time to do track. And they become all Americans because they can handle their body
Wow.
weight. Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
Because they already have a level of competency of rhythm. They already know how to, they're relatively strong. Now we just got to go apply it into a specific sprint, and
Yeah.
they always dominate. And I can and they've done like pretty much all the work for me. And I
So realistically, if a young kid wants to be in the NFL one day, he at least wants to go to college, or a girl wants to play in the WNBA. How many years do they need? How young should parents start their kids on this journey?
from 6 to 11, it should be
Six
very
to 11.
6 to 11, it should be hyper focused on performance and not skill. And then they should be the way I would protocol it with my
How
daughter.
would you differentiate performance and skill? Break those
Jumping,
down.
sprinting, and throwing is performance.
Okay.
Skill is baseball. Skill is soccer. The skill meaning
Ah,
the sport. I would play amateur like a house league sports from the time 6 to 11 and get really locked in to general performance, to
okay.
actually building the performance. That's
Control the
like
body, mastering the body.
I'll tell you the greatest athletes I've ever trained with, and like when I was actually an athlete, and we
Yeah.
all had the. I was an All American. I was highly recruited to play at these type of schools. I was playing with the best in the country. I was at one time the best in the country. I've trained the best in the country in the world, and they all have one thing in common. From the youth athlete perspective, they weren't concerned with being the best 9-year-old baseball player. They were concerned with playing a variety of sports and being just generally gifted. I remember when Bill Hamid, the guy that I trained, who's one of the best goalkeepers in MLS, I remember when he was 14 years old, he was a great basketball player. He was a great football player. He was obviously a high
All
level soccer
around.
player. He was all around, but like Like at 14 is when he's like, all right, I think I'm gonna take this soccer thing a little bit more seriously. But he had skill from basketball. He had skill, like he could do. He was a phenomenal. Just he could have played any sport he wanted. Same with me. I was great track. I was great at wrestling. I was great at basketball. I could dunk by the time I was in high school. I was able to do a multiple, like I was a hybrid type of athlete. But in general, like you look at Tom Brady, even Tom Brady was a baseball player. He was a basketball player and a football player, and he was better at baseball than he was at football. So that tells you something. Jordan was
Does.
better. Michael Jordan was better at baseball, right?
And they're
Antonio
so good at the
Antonio
mental
Gates
game.
Antonio Gates was a basketball player. Fucking Julius Peppers was a fucking basketball player. Why are all these high level athletes like Dave Winfield was better at football and basketball than he was at baseball, but chose baseball. And he got drafted in all sports. Deion Sanders, the list goes on and on. There's not one like Tiger Woods, 1 in a billion. Venus and
Yeah.
Serena. Everybody looks at Venus and Serena
Yeah.
and they look at Tiger Woods and they're like, all right, let me do that. Let me be a helicopter dad and let me get my kid at 4 years old to specialize in a sport. Good luck. Guess what they had that you don't? They actually were
Yeah.
obsessed and they had no other options. And they actually listened to their parents. And for some reason, they didn't get burnt out. But that
Yeah.
has never really been repeated. I've been in the industry for 15 years. I've seen parents that were way smarter and way more dedicated and had way more money than King Richard, right? And the kids were actually high level, but they tried that same approach and it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's a 1 in a million shit thing, right? And it's not that. And I look at these kids, I'm like, bro, I can name you 10 kids off the top of my head that could have played professional sports, but they specialized too early.
Okay, so that's a lesson to parents listening is get your kids in all the sports possible, get them performance based, get them to be strong with their body weight, and don't train them to run 5Ks if the sport they're playing, they're going to be running 20 or 30 yards. So at what age do you think, John, is it appropriate for kids to start getting sport specific? Now they can still do other sports, but really when they
I
fall in love with one or
I
is
think you should let the I think you should let the sport pick you.
okay.
Let the
Okay.
sport pick you. Let the sport pick you, and it should be done in high school.
What
Like
okay, high school. That's what just
I
for parents to know that's when a lot of kids fall in love with
let the
their
sport
sport.
talk for you. Let the sport talk for you.
Is there an age that happens for a lot of kids or is it just all
Sophomore year
across
of
the
high
board?
school. Sophomore year of high school.
Sophomore. Okay. Okay. And then at that point you start training the technical skills, but how do you make time? How do busy parents ensure that their kids now they're learning how to throw as a quarterback, how to juke as a running back? How do they do those things and keep the conditioning aspect, the performance aspect? How do they make time for all of that as students and as busy athletes?
For sure. As with my philosophy and my protocol, they would already have an elite level of speed at that point in time because they've been training for it at a very young age. Learning how to play quarterback ain't really that fucking hard when you're faster than everybody on the field. You have the
Yeah,
agility
that's
already,
true.
and you have the arm strength to
As
go with
long as
it.
you can throw all those other things, I
Like, yeah,
completely
like
agree.
if you have the eyes, the agility, and the
Yeah,
speed, you like, and the throwing ability,
it's
that like
gravy.
it's a matter
Yeah,
of learning the plays, and the way you're going to get the agility is by just actually in the game and in the practices. But you're not going to have the ability if you don't have the acceleration. It's going to be a lot more difficult to excel, and it's harder and harder to build the older and older you get because you start developing the habits. So
yeah.
going back to that though is there's still like the balance is this is if you're playing varsity sports, right? The practices start at 3 o'clock. They end at 6 o'clock. From 6, you can go train right after that, and you need to go train right after that. But when you're in season, you should be training 2 times minimum a week, possibly 3. But it doesn't. It's just more of a maintenance, right? Now,
Okay.
if you're always in season like baseball and soccer, that's a different story, and you're just gonna have to fit it into your schedule because otherwise you're gonna get what is called hurt. And that's the problem is what I was going to say before is you specialize too early. They could have been the greatest athlete in the world, but they got hurt because they weren't developed for the
Mm.
high demands of the sport. So if you
What do
want
you
to,
think
if you,
that is? Like unequal development and quadricep versus hamstring kind of thing? Like their body,
yeah,
one
it's a
set of
combination.
muscles are
Well,
too strong?
it's you want to pull a hamstring, it's either you're overdeveloped or underdeveloped, right? You don't have enough,
Mm.
but it's just a combination of the fact that you don't know how to control your body weight. You don't know how to
Yeah,
control
yeah,
it's like essentially having a plane but not knowing how to land it, right? You can
yeah.
know how to take off all you want, but if you don't know how to land it, you're fucked. So these kids, they're playing at a high level and they don't have a destination to go to and they don't know how to land the plane.
Yeah, and probably a lot of them are overtraining one part of the muscle and the opposite they're not. I've seen injuries happen from that as well. So that
It's a
seems like,
combination. It's a combination, but I think it's like also like you got to remember they're playing youth sports until
yeah,
they're not. These kids are playing youth sports at a high level, right? And then when they get to high school, they're going to if they're going to the school like this school right here is essentially they could beat this school right here, DeMatha, could beat a JUCO college. They could beat some D2 and D3 colleges for sure.
give people context that may not know. That's a local school there in Miami. Their
No, they
athletes,
back in what we trained this school back in Washington D.C. They were the number 2 ranked athletic program in the country. That's athletic program.
wow.
So so number 2 athlete. That means that they were nationally ranked in virtually every sport that they had. They were nationally ranked we were 4 in basketball, 1 at any given time, between 1 and 5, no higher than 10. Football, they were nationally ranked. Baseball, they were nationally ranked top 100. Soccer, they were like this is the second best athletic program in the country. So like these kids like can fuck around and be good in youth sports, but then they go into these higher level schools and the demand of the sport is way different. It's just
Yeah,
like from college to pro, it's way different. So you
yeah,
need to be able to handle those higher demands, and it's a higher speed. And when you're changing directions and you don't have the eccentric strength to be able to absorb the ground and put back into the ground, that's a recipe of disaster, and that's what happens with these kids when they don't train correctly. It's what
yeah.
happens when their demand of the sport is higher than what their outputs are.
And as you said, you do have to have an obsession. I went to the number one high school for football in the state of Tennessee, but I didn't play. I lost my passion pretty quickly when they were doing 3 days, and when it was just like the strongest linebackers kicking my butt. It was fun. It taught me discipline. It was good, but you're absolutely right. The level of competition at those high level schools is intense. So here at ProTrain, we want to get students young. We want to get them early, get them prepared. How many hours a week should parents realistically be prepared to bring their kids to Pro Train? Because we're going to do it better. We're going to get it done efficiently. We're going to do way better than what they can do at home or even with some semi professional trainers that haven't been in the game as long as us. How many hours do we need with a student to make them this high level potential to get them to this level
I want to go
starting
back.
young?
I want to go. I'm going to answer that, but I want to go back with what you said. You said that you were at the number 1 high school in Tennessee, and they were
Yeah.
doing 3 days, right? What a big name in the industry, Jim Wendler. I remember him talking about when he did the 5-3-1 method. So that's a weightlifting protocol. We'll get that. That's a little bit irrelevant, but he volunteered at a high school in Ohio, and he actually did an interesting thing where he stopped all conditioning all those 3 days, all that bullshit, all that stuff that just is for nothing. He
Yeah.
stopped that, and 2 things happened. You know what they are?
Probably less burnout, less injury.
And then we'll add on one more. I forgot. There's one more thing. They won. They went like undefeated. They were playing like a 1A. They were like a 1A school in Ohio, but I think he said they went undefeated or they went 8-1. It was something ridiculous, right? So, dude, like I could literally change any high school football program and a lot of these different schools by just tapering these kids down and getting them to do way less. I've done so many contracts with sports programs, and one of the biggest problems I have with being the strength and conditioning program for these schools is the actual specific sport coaches don't listen. I remember I had this high
Okay.
level
Mm.
soccer program, and they were like, "You need to talk to our coach. Like I educated them on everything about, like, all my athletes. I educate them on the processes of what it takes to be fast and be a real athlete. And when they do our system, they notice a big difference in the way their body feels and how smooth they feel and how much faster they are, and how, yeah, we're doing work and it's hard, but it's not harder. It's not hurting them, right? So
Yeah.
they're like, dude, if we did we could do ProTrain every day, and we'd be 10 times better. We'd be winning everything and destroying everybody. But this idiot coach, you train us, and then he runs us into the ground right after. And that's essentially what happens.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, and it's a hard conversation to have, because all these sports specific coaches are pretty ignorant, and they're just way too ego driven, because they don't make enough money at the high school and middle school level. They're not making money. So
Yeah.
it's really hard. It's just like, it's their ego is driving these programs. And it really tough to watch when you actually know the right way to go about it. And you, like, essentially, I've seen the pro train system executed at a team sport level at 50%, and we won state national titles at 50%. I swear to God, I would love to see the day when we could take over an entire program and just let them be athletes, and let the coaches be coaches from the
Yeah.
skills perspective, like where we work together. And I could guarantee that we could turn that school into a national rate program, 100%. And
That's amazing. So thinking about that, with starting the kids young, do you think 4 hours a week is sufficient with pro train, with this type of training, if they really
man,
want to
three
go
three hours
college?
a week, 3 hours a week with great recovery and great nutrition and
Okay.
sleep. If we started monitoring these kids' sleep, getting them to go to bed at 9:30, even eating at an optimal level with a nice macronutrient breakdown of the right portions and the right hydration, I can get anybody to go to college. I can get anybody to go to college. I can get anybody to go to college with that protocol, with that stack for 4 years. From the
For
time that
four
they're
years.
13,
Okay.
you give me 4 years of doing it my way, where I'm monitoring your sleep, I'm monitoring your nutrition, and I'm monitoring your training for 3 to 4 hours a week. I will get you to the collegiate level, guaranteed. It's just like, I've never had an athlete not follow that system and not make it to college.
So, what do you get most excited about when you see people go to college and maybe seeing someone in a untraditional sport? Like, you've probably, I know you're training all these different sports. What gets you excited when you see someone do a sport you wouldn't expect? All of it's exciting because you're obviously have this ground.
Honestly, I don't like. I used to care about the sport specifically when I was younger. I was like always gung ho about football players, baseball
Yeah.
players, and track, because that was like my main sports. But now I just love watching kids that are just like, we can get them to buy in. If they can do
Yeah.
60% of the nutrition, 60% of their sleeping better, and I just love watching that transformation of that shy, chubby, non-confident kid, and just watch him flex a little bit. Has his
Yeah.
chest out. He's got this glow about him. He's confident. He's cocky. He's playing at a higher level. I don't even give a shit if he goes to college, but they always will. But I just love watching that kid, because I'm like, bro, this is what I got into it for. Watching that kid that just didn't know who he was, and then locked a different person because he just followed a system. And I think it comes down to, these kids don't have a goddamn clue, a goddamn plan, and a system. And it's because they
Yeah.
have bullshit teachers, bullshit coaches, and their parents are just very lazy. So they got all the odds stacked against them. Mediocrity, right? They're
Yeah.
not in front of professionals. They're in front of a bunch of yes men and women, right? And that is what makes the majority of why there's 11 million athletes that play youth sports. There's only 3 million that play high school sports. There's only about 50,000 that play from D1 to NAIA, and there's only 1,500 that play at the professional level. They get
Yeah.
lower and lower because people aren't willing to put in the sacrifices and the discipline and have a plan. And I would say, people think that these kids that make it to the professionals are just God gifted. They're not. They're God driven. They're just driven beyond strength. They're driven beyond speed. They're driven beyond all things that are in the outside world. And they followed a direction and they stick in the middle. They don't go left. They don't go right. They go fucking straight.
So
And
they've
a
got to
lot,
really want it. Okay. So
gotta
give me
really
a
want
ratio here. How much percentage is ignorance? They don't know how to train, and how much is they don't want it enough? Is it 70-30?
90%
Is it
ignorance.
60?
No, it's 90% ignorance on training and 10% they don't want it enough.
Okay.
Because if you're doing the right
Wow.
training, I can show you how
Wow.
to want it. I can show you how to want it. But you're not doing the right training. I can get anybody to bench 315. I can get anybody to
Yeah.
run at least a 4.7.
I
I can
guess
get
if
any
you're improving, you want it more if you're getting
brother,
that kind of
brother. Most
improvement.
kids can't do fucking their body weight on bench, let alone
Yeah.
fucking pull it up. If I can show you how to bench twice your body weight, squat 3 times your body weight,
You're
fucking
going to
run a
want it.
4.7,
Yeah.
look a certain way, you're gonna fucking want it, bro. You're gonna
That's
want it.
true.
But 99% don't achieve it because 99% don't even know how to get there, nor want it bad enough to go try and figure it out. These 1%, they were like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna find a way to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? And there's some God gift to it as well. Let's not
Sure.
forget about that. There is some genetic. Some people just got better parents.
Yeah. But there's also just that the hard work can outwork genetics if
You
genetics
can't
aren't
tell me that
working.
Edelman,
That's what
you
I've
can't
heard.
tell me Edelman and Tom Brady were just like genetic mutations. Tom Brady
Yeah.
was not, look at Tom
He did what,
Brady,
the third round pick or something like that.
sixth
He just
round,
seems really
one
smart and like great
smart.
at throwing. But
Yeah, but he
I mean,
was
he's
still like,
athletic too.
what's crazy is people actually make fun of his athleticism. Let's put that in
Yeah.
perspective. He was still athletic as fuck, though.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, even at that point in time, was an athlete. So he was just like compared to everybody else, he
Yeah.
looks like a fucking nerd, but he ain't no average bum off the street. That
No, he's
motherfucker was
not.
that guy. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to say from these like these telephone tough guys, these weekend warriors, these
Yeah.
what is it? These
They're
keyboard
not the men in
gangsters.
the arena.
They're
They're on the
not the men in
sidelines.
they're all spectators. That
Yeah.
motherfucker was a player since day one, and he just
Yeah.
wanted it better than anybody out there. He was like, I'm gonna be the biggest, the baddest. I don't give a fuck if I'm the most athletic. Ha, motherfucker. I played in the league for 20 years, won 7 Super Bowls, and I've broken every fucking record out there. Not because I was more athletic, but I wanted it more. But of
He
course,
did.
he got more athletic as the times went on. He figured
Yeah.
out what worked for him, right? He's one of those people that got better when he was in the league. He did not, like most people once they
He
get to the
did.
league.
They
Oh,
decline. Yeah. What is the average NFL career? 3 years, two
3
and a half
years.
years?
3 years, man.
Yeah.
3 years. If you could make it to the 53-man roster, congratulations. You are one of
Yeah.
6,000. You are one of
Yeah.
6,000. Like, dude, to get to the 50, you don't have no idea how many motherfuckers can't even get past minicamp.
Get it,
Crazy.
man. Yeah.
I'll tell you straight up, I know those motherfuckers in minicamp, and they're dogs. I'm
Yeah.
talking about, dude, it's a different ball game in the NFL, my boy. It's a
Yeah. Even from the top high schools to college, like a guy that I was in my class, he was ranked number 2 running back in the nation. He went to college and he ended up getting removed from running back, put on like
dude,
special teams, like
dude.
return, and didn't even do that great. But let's talk about, we mentioned nutrition and recovery a little bit. What are 2 or 3 things that you would tell parents that most parents need to help their kids fix right now
Get
to
90
that can
grams of
give them the
protein
edge?
in right now. Get 90 grams. Figure out how to get 90 grams of protein in because they'll get
90
the other.
grams.
Get
All right,
90
that's one
grams.
thing.
Get 90 grams. And we got to start focusing on the water intake. These kids
Okay.
don't drink fucking water. Like, I got kids
What
out there right now that are not drinking water, and it's 150 degrees out there. They're super dehydrated.
what do they need, an ounce of per pound of body weight or more than
Simple,
that?
bro.
Or
Simple. Does anybody want to drink? I don't want to fucking drink that much water, but I do it, right?
yeah,
Because I feel better. I work out
yeah,
better. Like, I'm more hydrated. My skin looks better. I'm fucking,
yeah,
like, I'm able to recover better. You want to have a shitty recovery. You want to pull hamstrings. You want to have constant cramps and pains and shitty recoveries. Don't drink water. Don't go to
so
sleep.
that's 2 things. What's just a third other thing? We've got drink enough water, 90 grams of
Go the
protein,
fuck to bed. Stop
go to
fucking
bed.
staying up all night with your pretend girlfriend and playing video games. Come on,
Okay.
stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. I'm tired of this
Okay.
shit. You don't need to, there's nothing. My dad, I used to complain to him all the time. What, like, why are you always telling me to go to bed? Why are you like, why don't you want me to go out? Best thing my dad ever tried to tell me was like, son, nothing good happens at night. Everything happens during the daytime, right? You want everything in life, it's got to be in the light, not in the dark. And too many of these kids are vampires, right? They're up till 3 o'clock in the morning, they getting shitty sleep, and that's a recipe for hurt. And
All right.
like,
Water, protein, and sleep. Let
that's
the
it.
body.
It's not sexy, and like I wish I could give you a more complex, complicated answer, but it's that simple, my
No,
boy.
simple is Occam's razor. A lot of the time, the most simple solution is the most likely solution. So let's move on to mental toughness and focus. How do we get? And I feel like that's part of the misplaced of a lot of coaches where they just wear people out like dog tired. Is they think they're doing it for mental toughness and focus, and maybe it helps with that. But as you said, it certainly doesn't help them become the best
If
sprinting
I can get a
20.
kid to come in, if I can come in, a kid to come in every day and operate at a high level every day,
Yeah,
that's what I measure. I don't measure like what you could do in that workout. I don't
yeah,
measure like how hard you're working. I measure how smart you're working. Are you improving your numbers? Are you consistently getting better? And I don't think coach like the fact that you can withstand a hard workout means nothing. Okay, cool. Your body is durable. Okay, but how long is it
yeah.
going to be durable for?
So you would define mental toughness and focus as someone's ability to continue even when it's difficult, and not just that their body is
Mental
tired,
toughness.
but that they're
Mental toughness is this. It's in a nutshell. All right, offense and defense. Right. Show me the kid that shows up when things are not going their way,
yeah,
despite losing. Show me the kid that takes accountability for making a mistake. Show me the kid that no matter how far they are on the depth charts, they're going to still put forth that effort. That's mental toughness. Mental toughness is when you're not the best, but you still put forth the most amount of effort because you're
yeah,
trying to get there. And too many of these kids, they want to give up. They want to switch schools. They like, all that coach is out for me. No, you just don't want to compete. And I
yeah.
think mental toughness is the ability to compete when you don't have the ball, compete when you're not the best, compete when you are not in demand and on demand.
That's mental. Yeah, I would agree with that. If you're getting dominated and you're still in the game and you haven't given up, that is some mental toughness for
There's
sure.
a reason why we watch that movie Rudy over and over again.
Yeah,
So imagine somebody with more genetic ability, right? With the coach even said, I wish your heart was in my players. And I think mental toughness is just like getting out of bed every fucking day, despite how you feel,
yeah,
despite who hates you, who's talking about you. You gotta realize what these kids go through, right? They're going through puberty, they're going through girls, they're going
yeah.
through just constant, just things of like people like
Social
questioning
media
the,
BS, telling them who
yeah,
they
they're
should be,
right. And
gaslighting them.
all these things. And these kids, they don't know how to handle it. Like we didn't know how to handle it, and they definitely don't know
Yeah,
how to handle it.
yeah,
But it's the ones that don't care. It's the ones that tune all that out and blur it out. And that's mental toughness, is the ones that can blur out all the obstacles and look straight ahead, knowing the plan, right? Having a plan and knowing the plan. And it's hard for a 14-year-old to understand these concepts. So that's
yeah,
why good coaching is such a big deal. But like
yeah,
I told you before, the opportunities they have for good coaching is few and far between. So that's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of people make it. There's a lot of people that slip through the cracks because there was a certain point where there was just no direction. And most of these kids,
yeah.
they have zero direction. So they're like, I don't even know where this is going. And it's hard.
That's true. Yeah. So,
So
what's your story? How did you stumble upon this knowledge that is the precise knowledge on how to give someone sheer, raw, powerful athleticism? You just happened to be, you found a good teacher yourself, or how did that come
I
about? How
don't.
did you?
I think I had moments of good teachers, right? But I would say that I was by myself a lot in high school.
Okay.
I switched to three different high schools. I was. one of those kids that was just like really good at a youth level. And then when he
Yeah.
got to high school, I was just going through a lot of just like
Sure.
that transition.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clear direction or a path. I just knew I wanted to be great. So
Yeah.
subconsciously, I've always seeked out that type of coaching that I never got. I was just
Yeah.
such an athlete that I was fortunate enough to still have opportunities, but I messed up those opportunities because of lack of direction, focus, and mindset. And it was upon myself to change that narrative by helping others find what I couldn't find within myself and with the
Okay.
coaches that I wanted to seek out. And that's why I'm the best, because I really seeked out the best, man. I was humble enough to know that I didn't know shit. And I was like,
Yeah.
I need to figure. I knew one person that had an idea of where to look. And he's like, go look here. And that opened up a rabbit hole for me. And I just soaked it all up. And I was able to just constantly continuously to build the principles and expand on the methods of the philosophies of ProTrain, and then obviously helping myself and optimizing myself with the ProTrain system, help really understand really what the ProTrain methods are all
Yeah.
about, because I went through it myself. There was a point in time when, after sports was over and I started this business, I got married and I was going through my old trials and tribulation. I gained a lot of weight. I was dealing with a lot of bad habits. I was drinking, I was smoking. I wasn't the perfect coach. I had the passion, but I was battling anxiety and other demons. And
Yeah.
it wasn't till like I submitted to my own system is when I truly became the best coach and was able to unlock this for others and to help the world. And that's why we're able to get to the million. I know we're going to get to the million is because I am building the team of here in Miami and around the world of coaches that could be just like me and better than me. And I don't want to be the best coach in the world. I want ProTrain to be the best system in the world. I don't give a fuck about me being the best coach in the world. It's not about me. It's definitely not about me. It's about helping the little Johnnies around the world that just need a direction and a path and guidance and a mentorship. And we're here to give that, and we're gonna give that, and we're gonna get it to the fullest of what we are able to do. And I don't think there's anybody out there that can come close to what we offer.
That's a powerful motivation is you knew you had the athleticism, but you didn't see this micro targeted, super specific, good training. And then you see that today that not enough people have that. So you're fulfilling that niche. And talk a little bit about how someone improves their sprint form and the technology we use at ProTrain to get someone the best form contact with the ground or however long their stride is supposed to be. Talk a little bit about that and how we work on that.
Absolutely. To improve somebody's speed in a nutshell, you got to improve their horizontal and vertical force, right? You got to teach an athlete how to rise rhythmically over time. And you got to have the right positions and angles to do so and absorb the
Okay.
ground and reproduce into the ground, right?
So
So,
mechanics matter a lot.
mechanics, technique, it's posture,
Okay.
position, and power, the three P's of speed, right?
Okay.
And it's that simple. Building more force is going to get anybody faster, right? But are they going to able to absorb the greatest sprinters in the world can absorb the most amount of force and
Okay.
reproduce it. But a lot of athletes can only produce force; they can't absorb it.
No,
So
what does that I mean? I'm thinking of physics, the second law, Newton's second law, a opposite reaction or action equal the opposite reaction. They can produce it, but when they're
they can't
hitting the
reabsorb,
ground,
they can't repel it, can't reproduce it, they can't
that's
hold it. So in acceleration, so let's just break it down a sprint, right? You have the acceleration, you have the transition, and you have max velocity. Really, a lot of people would say that it's just all acceleration and then just deceleration, right? Which is
yeah.
more or less true, but I'm gonna just break it down as acceleration, transition, max velocity, right?
Looks like I lost you there. I'll hang on for a minute and we'll just cut out the blackness. But looks like I've lost you. That's okay. I lost your audio. Make sure your audio's good. I can't hear you. Talk to me. Let me see if I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I see you're back. Let me bring you back on.
I'm sorry, brother.
Can you hear me? It's okay. We'll cut it out. It's no big deal.
All right. Yes, sir. I can hear you. So going back, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's break down the sprint, right? You have the acceleration phase, you have the transition, and then you have the max velocity. Typically, with acceleration, you're trying to produce the most amount of force into the ground and then transition into an upright posture and hold that speed as long as you can. But acceleration, in the acceleration phase, we're going to have long, powerful ground contacts. So the longer the ground contacts, right, the better. I want to produce as much force. I want to get the most angles and the most range of motion out of every stride that I have. It's called stride length. And then I want the frequency to also be high. All right. And I also want to absorb that ground. So, because the more I absorb that ground, the more that next step is going to produce more force. That's what I was saying. Like the best athletes, the best sprinters in the world can absorb that ground quick, recreate it, but still create long ground contacts. So it's the
So are
most
they
power.
absorbing that on their midfoot or just the toes and the ball?
We're gonna be like right here.
Okay.
We're gonna and we're gonna be able to push and absorb.
And then
And
this is something that these young athletes, some of them, it's probably not habit. Some of this is you probably having to teach a lot of this, right?
we're gonna
This
have to
tactic.
teach it, but a lot. Yeah, it's gonna be tactic. It's gonna be technical, but also it's gonna be also strength. Right. A lot of athletes can't do this. They can't. They can't dorsiflex. They can't. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm doing?
You come on camera a little bit more. Let's see.
So like they can't push with that mid of the foot right there. They can't push it, right? So they're stiff, right? So they're just gonna hit it softly, right? But like my great sprinters are gonna be able to rebound it, absorb rebound.
That's the
right?
heel. You're talking about the back of the foot.
No, we don't. No, we don't
No,
touch. See, a lot of terrible athletes that are gonna hurt themselves are gonna heel strike, and a lot of long distance athletes heel strike, and that's why they have knee problems. So heel striking is a big contributor to knee problems. So
Wow.
so once we get into the transition phase, right? I'm transitioning to an upright posture where I'm still accelerating. All right, I'm still now my ground contacts are going to be shorter, but they're going to be quick. Right? And I'm
Yeah.
recreating and recycle in a cyclical motion, right? Where I'm in the perfect angles where that cyclical bike is going around.
Yeah.
In the same
You got a
format.
rhythm and it's perfect.
It's just
Like
rhythm. It's a perfect
mechanical.
rhythm. And then now my posture is fully upright and I'm able. This is where core strength comes in because it's hard to hold that and cycle from a full 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Where it's 90 in the front. It's 90 in the front, and then the back leg is in a perfect angle to come back and boom, quick, boom, come back quick. We are gonna teach that from a technical standpoint. Then we're gonna also teach that from a strength standpoint, mechanical standpoint.
How long does it take for a athlete that's 8 years old comes in and they want to master that? Is that a 5, 6 year thing to master?
Yeah, if I get an athlete at 8 years old, they will be very competent at least a very advanced level by the
Okay.
age of 13. Like I will get if I get an 8 year old uninterrupted where they're gonna be really consistent with us, they will be sprinting between an advanced to an elite level by 13.
That's
And
awesome.
that and when I'm talking about like 11 seconds. I'm talking about like 11 seconds for a 13-year-old. I've done that.
What is that?
Where
100?
I've had
That's
11-year-olds.
amazing.
I've had 11-year-old. I've had 13-year-old. And honestly, his dad wouldn't fucking. I could have got him to go 10-7 by.
Yeah.
I could have got him to go probably even more than that. And he just won the state title this year.
Wow.
Shout out to Lee. I love you. I love you, Freezy. But edit that out. Edit out the names. But
Yeah.
the thing is, they didn't listen to my protocols. The kid was super gifted, but bro, he's been sprinting since he was 8.
What do you mean? He turned his back on the protocol later on,
No, just like in general, he's been sprinting since he was 8.
but he didn't
But
listen to the
he didn't
protocol. Okay.
listen to the full protocol. But he was
Okay.
consistently jumping, throwing, and sprinting.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So let's talk a bit about too. I think there are some parents that they would love for their kids to get to the college. They love for the kids to get the NFL, NBA, all that good stuff. But there's even if their kids don't make it there, I've heard the testimonials from parents, and the common theme is that their kids are more built like leaders. They're more confident, they're more assured in their decision making. Talk about that transformation you've seen in students and how ProTrain can not just teach kids to be the best athletes in the world, but also a mental transformation and really embrace that mental toughness and focus, because we've seen that, and that's the common thread from parents.
I think
One,
there's just that's probably the most successful part about the program is just the confidence that we build from what show we can show an athlete that they're capable of, and it's because they stuck to a plan, they got a goal, and they smashed it, and it's just the secret sauce to life. I think
yeah,
most people and mediocrity is because they have no goals and they're not attacking goals; they're just coasting. And when you can show a young athlete that they can do more and then they can literally transform themselves, it opens up a wide range of doors. And it all starts with that right there. I've seen it just countless times. There's too many examples. I had one kid where he was an introvert. I thought there was a point in time where his parents were like, yo, I think he doesn't like girls. I think he's gay. We're gonna still love him and stuff. He was super quiet, super awkward. We trained that kid. Day one, day 30, we started talking. Day 60, he's talking a lot. Day 90,
wow,
he's being outgoing. Day 180, he's starting to play, be the stud of his team. A year in, he's an all-star. 2 years in, he's the captain of his team. 3 years in, he's all district. 4 years in, he's all state. 5 years in, he's the prom king. He's the got 14 offers. He's gonna go play a
wow,
full D1 scholarship. He's got a girlfriend. He's happy. You can't get the kid to shut the fuck up. And he is also on a roll. And his I remember this was like year one. His mom like came in and just started crying, like breaking down and just like crying. I don't know how. I don't think there's any amount of money that I can give you to justify what you did for my son. And I never really I thought he was gonna be gay. I thought he was gonna just go through life miserable and alone and depressed, and you literally changed him. Like and she started breaking down and crying, and we hugged. And I've had that happen, but I just think that was just such a powerful thing where here we had a parent thinking their son is a homosexual, right? And it was
yeah,
just like he was just so lost and confused. But I feel like there's no greater forget this, like they don't even give a shit about the sports. They're like, yo, this kid is just a different person. He's happy, he's healthy, he's actually enjoying life. So there's just a lot that goes into it that I've seen.
yeah. There's something so powerful about having a goal and executing, realizing that you are in control, you can shape your future. I think kids get so lost out of all the noise, especially with as much social media as they have now. I mean, we had it when we were in our late teens, but now it's everywhere. They get lost in the noise, but when they realize they are in control and this training that they're getting at ProTrain that is helping them realize I can set goals, I can execute, that brings them into adulthood, brings their mindset closer to adulthood. So that's a beautiful thing in itself, in addition to
Absolutely,
the athletics.
absolutely, and that's what we bring to the table. And I think a lot of parents are starting to recognize that, and it's such a rewarding feeling knowing that you are helping lead and mold and shift and shape today's youth. And I think that's something that we just need as a society.
Yes,
And I think
absolutely.
and that's the direction we are going in. And we only hire people that carry out that same message, that are leaders and understand what the power they have with these young athletes. And I think it's such a rewarding thing to watch other coaches, not just me, do the same thing and touch these lives and see how the transition goes from going from scared, introverted boy to strong, independent leader man that is commanding the room with style, grace, swagger, and has
Yeah.
the ability to contribute to society with a purpose.
That's amazing. So, with all of that being said, let's take a few minutes to discuss. We'll use all of that for the main segment. Let's talk 5 or 10 minutes about your vision for the licensing model, how you want to empower other coaches to make a great income while also blessing children with the ability to become star athletes and become the leaders of tomorrow.
I think one of the biggest problems I had with the industry was just I couldn't find people that were making money. I was going to
Yeah.
all these conferences. I was around all these highly successful, decorated performance coaches, Vern Gambetta, Gary Winkler, Mark Verstegen, Mike Boyle. And yeah, they were internet successful, but I didn't see them with the type of life that I want. Now, look, I'm not saying them those names in particular, but I'm just saying the average non-famous performance coach that I still respected, I didn't think that they
Yeah.
were getting what they were worth. And I was trying to figure out like, yo, like who's the really, financially rich people in the industry. And I remember it like it was yesterday when I first got the 1080 and I declined the main 1080 rep to come out and I had another rep come. He was actually the reason why I got the 1080 because he was at a gym that I really respected and the director of performance was an advocate for 1080 at the time. And
Okay.
I was like, so I re and so I paid for them to come out and do the onboarding and on-site training for the 1080. And I was so anxious to start talking about like how the business was and everything like that. And it was such a shock and almost a disappointment when I realized when they told me, it's like, yeah, but they're not doing, millions of dollars. Like he laughed at me and I was like, bro, this is like one of the most famous guys in our industry. You're telling me he's not doing seven figures? It was just jaw dropping to me, and
Wow.
it was just really disappointing. And I really did. I didn't get into this industry to make money, but when you do it long enough, like you want to get rewarded. And
Yeah.
I have a wife. I had a wife at the time, and I had a kid. I had a daughter, a newborn, and I just felt I deserved a little bit more than what I was getting. I owned a gym,
Sure.
but I wasn't cracking the bank. I was doing okay. I was doing, decent, like better than average. But it was just like, man, I'm working this much to barely make six figures. I didn't like that. And then I cracked the code on the when I cracked the code on the marketing, or when I cracked the code on putting everything together, I just really was so appreciative to finally find the system that works for
Yeah.
this business where I'm like, yo, all these people that told me you can't make millions of dollars training athletes, I can laugh in their face because I became a millionaire by training athletes. And I want to give that to everybody that does this. That's my mission is to, because I think I can get anybody to at least high six figures, which would change most people's lives. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
I know I can make people millionaires and doing it training athletes, which I think is so important and such a undervalued profession, right? Sculpting the youth, right?
Yeah.
Because you got teachers, but teachers are so generic, right? The riches are in the niches. And specifically, the best thing that ever happened to me in my youth, what I remember is the training, right? Like that, like being in the weight room, being like that was what changed my life and sculpted for me to have these competitive, purposeful, mindful type of mentality, and I could have done that without the weight room and the turf. And I think anybody out there that can teach the right system to the athletes deserves to get paid for that. And I want to show the world that this is like you don't have to be a starving artist to be able to do what you love, but you can also get paid for it. And that's what I'm going to sculpt and help mold to the industry and change the industry. I'm not the smartest guy in the room when it comes to training. I've been around the best in the room. I can summarize anybody's training, but I'm not gonna be out there quoting the laws of dynamic correspondence by Verkhoshansky. I'm not gonna be writing lectures and stuff like that. But I can show you a basic business blueprint that will get you to change your life and change others' lives through training. And that's what we're going
Yeah.
to be teaching with the business blueprint. Because not only do we have the best training system, but we also have the best business system in the industry that nobody else has. I've been in this industry for 15 years. I've been around Mike Boyle. I've been around Verstegen. I've been around Mavarito. I've been around Tony Villani. I've been around Michael Johnson. I've been around all the top performers, and I can assure you they don't have the system that we can just go anywhere in the country and set up a performance program at a high
Yeah.
level, right? Yeah, there's people out there that are training and making money. There's people out there that are making seven figures, but they are not able to show and duplicate it to others, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been able to have the balance of being able to train at a high level and then building this business to where it's scalable and duplicating because I understand the concepts of business now and also the training side. And you have to have both. When I was with
Right.
When I was with Tim Grover, what's funny, I was at a conference with Tim Grover. I was in the bathroom with him, the homo, right? And I was like, yo, so why didn't you just scale your performance gym? He had a big gym in Chicago. And the guy looked at me dead in the eye and was like, yo, everybody wanted Tim Grover. Yeah, everybody wants to train with John Todaro, but like I can only be in one place at one time.
Yeah.
But it's about having who does that do justice? Yeah, it helps the local people in Miami, but what if I was able to get John Todaro in every city in every state where I don't need to be there, but the system exists, the training, the
Yeah.
business, and I think I've unlocked what Tim Grover, Verstegen, Boyle couldn't unlock. Right? They're better. They're like I would say they're better coaches than me, right? But they don't have the overall 360 view that I
Yeah.
have. And
Figured out a template for it. So with that being
100%.
said, we're going to offer coaches, if you are interested in youth coaching and you want to improve the lives of youth, then we're going to put a link down below. Click that link to learn more, and we will help you achieve this system and coach youth and make a amazing living, because we want to spread what we're doing and help these young athletes and help other people
Man, we're gonna do
make a
everything for you. The system, the training protocols, the business blueprint, everything. You get everything. All you gotta do is show up, and you're gonna get between a high six figure, high seven figure business. It's that simple.
It's that simple. All right. What's your closing words? Any closing words?
My closing word is just
The parents,
success.
to other trainers, to everybody.
I'm gonna go with what I always say, and it's very simple. Success is never final. Failure is never fatal. I've been knocked down. I've lost way more than I've won. But when you decide and set a standard for yourself that you can only be here and never go below, and
Yeah.
it's when you really like, and you're willing to take risks, and you're willing to fail. Like you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to fall off the horse. If you're willing to do that, I can show you greatness.
I love it. All right. We will